Teachers of Reddit, what's the saddest thing you've heard a student say? A second grader told me that he was feeling weird and tired that day because he didn't sleep much the night before because people were shooting each other on his street, and his dad went out to see what was happening and didn't come back until morning. He was so worried he hadn't slept at all. Another student told me he couldn't take his ADD medicine because his mommy sold it for food. I have two from the same open university in an economically depressed area. With tears, can I please turn in my paper next week instead of next class because my brother just got convicted and they are asking for the death penalty. Poor kid. That's a hell of a lot to handle at 18. This was an essay on the topic of why are you here? The student, an older woman in a freshman comp class, wrote that she'd had her kids at a young age, and now that they were grown, she wanted to show them that she could still make something of herself. And even though her husband told her that he would leave her if she went to college, she came anyway. Thank God it was a diagnostic essay, because how the hell would you grade that? I just wanted to cheer and hug her. Many years ago I was teaching in a private school for children with emotional impairment and behavioral difficulties. I had a 6-year-old boy in class that had an upcoming court date about his rape by his mother's boyfriend. The rape happened when he was 4 years old. He looked at me with intensity and asked, "Do you think that the judge would let go into rapist's cell and beat him up? I'm so much bigger now, and I have been practicing. Oh, and after, could I live with you? Because my mom wants to live with him when he gets out of jail and I won't be able to live there anymore." I remember when a girl in our class told the teacher it didn't matter if they learned it, she was going to be dead in a couple of years anyways. At the time I told my mom, and she said the girl was probably just being dramatic, but the girl didn't come back after summer break. I was teaching media, journalism, podcasting, video editing, etc. to students in Southeast Europe who wanted to better utilize social media to share what was happening in their countries. Think Arab Spring. One of my students from Burma mentioned sleeping with her father. I pulled her aside to have her clarify. Her father sleeps in bed with her and her sister to make sure they aren't kidnapped overnight and sold into the sex slave trade. Most sobering moment of my life. I've been an ESL teacher online for Japanese people of all ages for around 6 to 7 years or so. I had a favorite student. Sweet, nice older gentleman. Loves to talk about his favorite anime shows with me to practice his English and likes to ask about what I drew during the week. I'm an illustrator. One day, he contacted me out of class hours, which was against the company's rules, and left me a message with the context of, "Hello, dear teacher. I always look forward to our classes and I have been very happy whenever we talk. I know you've become more popular and other students have requested for your classes, so we cannot talk as often as we used to. I know I'm only one of the many people you teach English to, but you have been so kind to me during our classes and I feel like we have become friends. I'm afraid to say that I will no longer be taking your classes anymore as I'm contemplating suicide. I've been so depressed lately and I no longer know what to do." Against company protocol, I contacted him as soon as I saw the message and begged him to tell me his mailing address and told him to wait until my letter comes. I wrote him a very long letter of why he shouldn't do it and also sent a lot of my art prints and stickers to hopefully cheer him up. He responded after some weeks and said that it truly helped him clear his mind. We are still friends to this day and he sends me pictures of his pet rabbits from time to time. My sister had a kid in kindergarten have a big breakdown seeing all the food getting thrown away after lunch on the first day. He had a bunch of siblings at home and they were all hungry. It's the first time my sister cried at work. CPS was called and stuff happened. Dunno if this counts as I'm the one that said it, but I had a pretty tough time at school. I had almost no friends and buried myself in my studies. My tutor was this tiny angry Welsh man called Mr. Evans, who I didn't think even noticed I existed as I just kept my head down and had no interest in either of his subjects. Flash forward 5 years, and I'm working a part-time retail job whilst paying to learn accountancy at a local college. One random Sunday who walks in but Mr. Evans. He notices me, looks surprised, and comes over to talk. We shoot the shit for 5 minutes or so as he basically asks me how I'm doing, what I've done since 6th form, etc. Before he goes, I tell him I'm surprised he remembers me after all this time, considering all the kids that must have come and gone since then. He looks me in the eye and says, you always remember the ones you worry about. You once spent 10 minutes and 1 mile lessons arguing with me about what the point of anything was in the politest way possible. It's great to see how well you're doing now. I had a student who was diagnosed with leukemia, went into remission, returned to school. Shortly after, his sister was diagnosed with skin cancer. A few weeks later, his brother was killed in a RTA. One day he came to see me and just hung around my classroom door. I asked him if there was something he wanted and to come in. He walked in, sat down and simply said, I just wanted to stop. I don't know what I've done. Then he sobbed. We ended up crying together for the entire break. Absolutely heartbreaking. Ex-wife taught 1st grade in a school district known mostly for trailer park crime. At Christmas, she had her kids write stories about the best thing about the holidays. One extremely impoverished kid wrote that he was excited that Santa was going to let him pick out a single box of cold cereal that would be his and his alone, and he could pick from anything in the grocery store. Mom was dead ass broke, working 2 jobs trying to make ends meet, and food stamps were the only way she could get her 3 kids a present. She played this up, and the kids got excited about this. As a community college peer tutor, I've heard too many kids and adults tell me about their depression, anxiety, addiction, and bullying. For some reason one kid stuck with me. He told me about his autism and his love for writing movie scripts. He said, I know they're not very good, so my dad always reads them and helps edit them. It was sad hearing him beat himself up about something he loved, but nice to hear that his dad always takes the time to go through long scripts with him often. I had a kid with a rare brain disorder where, according to his doctor, one half of his brain was 2 years behind and one was 2 years ahead of schedule, or something like that. Couldn't find any info about it online. This resulted in unusually strong academic ability, but very poor emotional regulation. One day on the playground, the little guy was doing some homework. I looked at him and said something to the effect of, go be a kid. He said, well, I don't have time to be a kid. A little background. His mother makes him spend a lot of time at home doing brain trains, little cognitive exercises to support the hemisphere of his brain that isn't developed. These are time consuming and challenging. So, what he said hit me hard. Don't even know why. Kid is mature, but the genetic lottery stripped him of his youth. I was only sort of a teacher for 1 year. I worked at one of the national laboratories in the Bay Area, and as outreach we gave 2 science lessons each to all the schools in Oakland and Berkeley. On lesson 2 in one of the Oakland schools, from a 10-year-old girl who was clearly having trouble paying attention. Sorry I wasn't here last time. My dad got shot. For context, I teach English as a second language in HK for secondary students at a pretty weak school. At this point I'd only been teaching for maybe 5 weeks. I was teaching the Form 1s, 12 years old, speaking lessons, and one boy had a really good attitude to learning English, and so I thought he would make a great addition to the English ambassador team to help me out around school. When I approached him after class and asked if he wanted to join, the conversation went like this. Me, hey, name, would you like to be an English ambassador? Student, but my English not very good. Sick. Me, it seems pretty great to me, and your attitude in class is excellent, and that's what's important. Student, but there are much sick students better than me. Me, I think you're more than good enough. At which point the boy starts crying, and obviously I'm quite shocked, and I'm just like, what's up? You okay? To which he just says whilst sniffling from tears, no one's ever said I'm good enough. They all told me my English was rubbish. That was heartbreaking for me to hear. He explained afterwards not only had his friends told him he was rubbish, but his teachers too. Heard just last week from behavioral/emotional support student. IA, me, wow. That's a pretty good score. Great job. Student, yeah, but I got % wrong. Mom's not gonna be happy about that. IA, but this is honestly a good score for you. It's over half. Student, I know. But whenever I tell her I got like 20 out of 30, my mom always says, but you still got 10 wrong. And I'm like, screaming in my head, why can't you be happy for me for finally getting a good grade? Apostrophe. IA. Heartbreaking. Well, if she won't say it, I will. This is an awesome score for you. I mean, this is a brand new concept the teacher just introduced today, and you rocked out this score after only hearing it once. You did rockin' awesome. The little smile they gave at that. Just killed me. I was assisting another class of first graders, and when they were dismissed one of the boys was slightly panicked and sticking to the wall. When I talked to him to figure out why, he informed me that his older brother had come to pick him up and that he was terrified. I called over the other teacher and we found out that his brother was physically abusive when they were alone together. Of course, in light of this information, we couldn't allow him to leave with his brother, so we called the mother and waited until she could pick him up. I informed the mother of what her son had told us, and that was it, but I'll never forget how scared that little boy was. I'm a fucking idiot. The young man had just received his scores on his act. They weren't good, and he felt his dream of being a police officer were over. The kid is 17. Just go his life rammed by a stupid ass test. It makes my blood boil how much stock we put into the damn test. He's a joy to have in class, spent all of his lunches with me going over content he didn't understand, is well liked, works 40 hours a week, is a productive member of society, and is just an overall good kid. And a damn test says he's not good enough. Not me, but wife. A couple years ago, a grade 3 kid whose birthday was coming up was saying how he didn't deserve a birthday, that he was a speck of dirt, that he was bad. It took a while, but my wife was able to figure out that when he was in grade 1 and at his birthday celebrations, his dad stabbed his mom. He had internalized this into somehow being his fault because it happened on his birthday. It was his fault that his dad was in jail and that his mom was so severely injured that she could no longer work. It was his fault that they had to move into a much smaller place. Really tough to hear. Kids should not have to deal with this shit. It's not hard, I'm just really tired. Said to me by a little girl in tears as she refuses to do the work I gave her. I work at an international preschool in Japan, and it's insane what some of these kids do before they're even in elementary school. This girl went to our school 9-2:30 every day and then had math school 2 times a week. Singing class, puzzle class, yes that's a real thing here, music lessons, piano I think, and gymnastics. She was in preschool, mind you. When I taught elementary school, I had a kindergarten kid that was always at the school. He'd show up super early and leave super late. He was in a before and after school program called Milk. They give the kids whose parents work breakfast and dinner. It was right before April break and I can't remember why, but I mentioned we were going to be off of school for a week. He started crying and said, "But miss, how am I going to eat if I'm not here?" I almost cried with him. His parents work all day long. Reported it to the admin, but I don't think anything came of it. He might have stayed with other family for the week. He seemed fine when we came back. Not a teacher, but overheard a girl and a teacher talking. We all went to a more special high school, smaller classes and more flexible schedules and such. He was trying to give her a pep talk about all the things she could do, since she seemed depressed that day and didn't feel like doing schoolwork. He was saying both short-term and long-term stuff, like getting herself a treat after school to cheer herself up, listening to favorite music, telling her she was smart enough to do anything she wanted. What broke my heart was when, in response to the careers and future plans, she said, "My family said girls can't do that stuff." She was from a fairly middle-class family, white, owned a dog, and Southern. The parents were college educated, so it was a huge shocker to hear her say that. Talking to her later, it turned out that she was only expected to go to college to find a boyfriend/husband, so it didn't matter what she wanted to do. After that, the teachers and other students who also overheard started to look out for her more and helping her when she needed it. Last I saw, on her Facebook at least, she seems to be doing very well, so I'm happy she's doing better. Still makes me feel sad that some people still think that being born a certain gender, boy or girl, stops them from doing certain things. I work as a paraprofessional for kids in grades K5, and I kind of hop around from kid to kid and help wherever I can. A lot of my one-on-one students are special education or have learning disabilities, so my approach to working with them is being open to their interests and talking to them in between work. You'd honestly be surprised how well this works, just letting them tell you about their day or fortnight or their weekend. Now I have had issues with stuff like this with a few kids, but the one that sticks out to me is this boy in my 5th grade class. He has both learning disabilities and issues with emotional processing. He's a very large kid at 10 years old, taller than I am. One day I come into the room to find him sullen and quiet, and I ask him if he'd like to come out in the hallway and talk to me. At a bit of probing he told me that one of the kids in his class told him he should die, that nobody likes him. At one point he just whispers, "I just want someone to love me." It absolutely broke my heart. I struggle with feelings of not feeling loved myself, so I told him, "You know I love you, right? You're my friend and I always look forward to seeing you every day." We ended up taking a walk around the school just chatting to get his mind off things, and I told the social worker. Ever since then he's been one of my best students. Yes, he still doesn't want to do his work, but he's always excited to see me, and one day, when I came to class with a pulled muscle in my leg, he helped me walk to his seat and pulled out a chair for me. It's honestly one of the moments in my life where I feel I made a difference.